Welcome to Marvel Universe 19, where we dive deep into the extraordinary world of Marvel Comics. Join us, your hosts, myself, CosplayDude637, Ty Tiger, Mark the Red Cornish Ranger, and even A-Crown, as we explore the adventures of your favorite characters from the Marvel Universe, such as the iconic X-Men, the thrilling New Mutants, and the dynamic Marvel Rising Heroes, along with Avengers, Fantastic Four, any Marvel hero you can think of, you'll hear it here on this channel. So, sit back, get ready, and join us for an epic journey through Marvel Universe 19. Marvel Rising, Chapter 2, Stand as One or Fall as a Team.
The sun was beginning to set, casting a fiery glow over the ocean as a massive cruise ship sailed along the horizon. The passengers aboard, unaware of the chaos that was about to unfold, continued to enjoy the luxury of their vacation. Music played from the deck, the clinking of glasses and the laughter filled the air, until all suddenly stopped. Death Zone stood at the bow of the ship, his eyes scanning the vast expanse of water before him. His powers, a strange and terrifying gift, pulsed beneath the surface of his calm expression. Diz let out a low hum from his throat, just a faint vibration at first, as though testing the air. His lips curled into a smile as the first sign of his ability began to take effect. With each note he held, the sound grew sharper and more intense, vibrating through the very air itself. The passengers on the ship froze, a wave of panic slowly creeping over them. They clutched their ears, but it was too late. The sound reverberated, and suddenly they were deaf. A sharp, overwhelming silence descended upon the crowd as they realized what had happened. Some of them panicked, their breaths becoming in sharp gasps as the lack of sound drowned their senses. Others dropped to their knees, clutching their heads, overwhelmed by the violent effects of Diz's powers. With the ship under his control, Diz stood tall, letting the disorientating effects of his harmonized sound course through the vessel. His grip tightened around his throat as he sustained the sound, causing chaos to ripple through the terrified passengers. But before he could enjoy his dominance for much longer, a loud, distant sound cut through the chaos. A jet, a sleek, advanced model, zoomed into view, cutting across the sky with the precision and speed of a tactical strike. It was the Aegis. Inside the jet, the newest team of the Secret Warriors gathered, their eyes focused and ready. They'd been briefed, but the moment the call had come in, they knew this mission would be more than just another simple takedown. Agent Ty Tiger, the team's SHIELD liaison, spoke through the comms. "This is it, team. Death Zone has taken control of this cruise ship. You're going in hot. Remember, your first priority is to neutralize his ability. His power is disorientating, so stay focused and stay together," Ty Tiger said. American Chavez cracked her knuckles. "Finally, a real challenge," she said with a grin on her face. "I got this," Ghost Spider said, checking her web shooters as she prepared to suit up. Kamala Khan adjusted her suit, glancing at Doreen Green. "Let's just hope we don't have to deal with another noisy situation like last time," she said. Squirrel Girl smirked. "Oh, we'll be fine. Plus, I've got a few squirrel friends who might help us out," Squirrel Girl replied. Agent Ty's voice cut through the chatter. "Stay low and make your moves. Don't let Diz get the upper hand. We can't afford to let this get any worse," he said. As the Aegis jet swooped lower, Nexus looked out of the window, his expression focused. He adjusted his gear before speaking to his teammates. "We need to move quickly. Diz's power can overwhelm us if we're not careful. I'll use my kinetic energy to keep him off balance," he said. Spectrum, Maya Rodriguez, nodded beside him, her energy radiating from her. "I'll face through anything he tries to throw our way. We'll need to be ready to move fast. The longer we let him hold that tune, the worse it'll get for everyone down there," she said. Hizuko Ichiki, known as Armor, adjusted her exoskeleton, her powerful psionic armor forming around her. "I'm ready to shield us. No one's getting past me," she said. Her tone was calm but resolute. The jet engines roared as it hovered above the cruise ship, and the team began to drop down to the ship, each one using their abilities to navigate through the chaos below. Ghost Spider was first to leap out of the jet, her webbing instantly grabbing hold of the nearby mast as she swung towards the deck. America followed shortly after, creating a portal to teleport herself and Kamala directly onto the ship itself. Squirrel Girl, with a bright grin, flipped out of the jet, using her enhanced agility to land gracefully beside the others. As Maya and Joe made their descent, Maya phased her body in and out of visibility, allowing her to slip easily past obstacles, whilst Joe focused focus his powers on the wind around him, using it to turn his body into air and landing softly. Hizuko landed solidly on the deck, her psionic armor shimmering as she took a defensive stance. "I'll take the front," Armor said, her voice calm but commanding as she stood firm, ready to protect her teammates. With the team now fully engaged, the air was thick with tension as Death Zone's chaotic power echoed in the stillness, the vibrations from his throat still making the air shudder. They couldn't afford to waste any time. Death Zone's influence was spreading and the team had to act fast. The secret warriors crept across the deck of the cruise ship, trying to stay quiet and focus on the Death Zone, who stood at the ship's bow. The air was thick with tension and silence Death Zone had created was maddening, and passengers were in a blind panic, stumbling across and around as they tried to make sense of the chaos. Death Zone stood tall, letting out a low, harmonic hum that seemed to vibrate through everything. His eyes were closed, lost in the power of his sound, unaware of the team closing in on him. "Alright, let's go in quietly," Ghost Spider whispered through her comms, crouching on the rooftop. "I'll take the high ground. I'm going to drop in and web his mouth shut," Ghost Spider said. "Got it," Nexus responded, already grabbing onto the metal post, making his skin like metal. "I'll make sure he doesn't get away," Nexus replied. Miss Marvel stretched her arms out with a grin. "I'll cover the front, let's get this done," she said. "I'll take the side. He won't see me coming." America Chavez nodded, her eyes focused, but as they moved, it quickly became clear the coordination wasn't quite up to par. Squirrel Girl rushed ahead, her tail flickering behind her as she tried to be the first to charge in. But just as she did, Miss Marvel stretched her leg out too far, causing the two to crash into each other. They tumbled onto the ground, and Squirrel Girl got tangled up in Miss Marvel's stretchy limbs. "Oops, sorry, guess I got a little carried away," Miss Marvel gasped, pulling herself and Squirrel Girl apart. Squirrel Girl pushed herself up, dusting herself off. "Don't worry, I'm good," she muttered. Nexus was too focused on the target to realise what was happening. He swung his fist at Death Zone, but instead he hit a pile of crates, sending them flying to Armor, who was trying to move into position. "Watch it, will you?" Armor snapped, her sonic executing flaring to life as she blocked the incoming debris, but she still got knocked back. "Could you guys stop causing a pile up over here?" she barked. Sorry. Nexus shouted frantically, trying to recover as his power slipped out of his control. "Alright, this is getting ridiculous," Spectrum said, her body flickering as she phased in and out, trying to keep her distance from the chaotic mess. "We need to focus, we can't just let him keep us off balance," she said. But just as she tried to phase through the crowd to get behind Death Zone, Squirrel Girl dove for him, tackling him right as she tried to get in her line of sight. Squirrel Girl's momentum sent Death Zone spinning, and before she knew it, she was caught up in her own tail, unable to move. "Okay, no, this is embarrassing," Squirrel Girl muttered, tangled up in her own fur. "I'll do it," Miss Marvel said, rushing forward as she stretched her arms out again, aiming for Death Zone, but then she accidentally stretched too far, and her fist smacked into Ghost Spider as she dropped down from above. The impact sent both heroes stumbling into a pile of ropes, all while Death Zone barely noticed. "I'm so sorry, Ghost," Miss Marvel yelled, laughing awkwardly as she helped Ghost Spider untangle herself. "I thought we agreed if you're stretching, don't stretch into me," Gwen just groaned back. Nexus finally hit Death Zone's side, but instead of knocking him off balance, he ricocheted off the ship's metal hull and smacked Squirrel Girl in the back. She yelped, spinning out of control. "Alright, that's it. Everyone stop touching everything," she yelled. Death Zone turned towards the chaos, his smug smile growing. "This is what the mighty Secret Warriors can do?" "Pathetic," he mocked. Okay, team, focus," Ghost Spider shouted, recovering from her fall. "I'll take the lead this time. Just don't trip me over," Ghost Spider shouted. The team had finally gained some composure, managing to stop colliding into each other for the moment. Ghost Spider shot a web towards Death Zone's mouth, sealing it shut with precision. Death Zone's eyes widened in shock, but before he could retaliate, Spectrum phased through him, reappearing directly behind him. She slapped a power dampening collar around his neck with one quick motion, and the collar clicked into place, and suddenly the vibration from his throat stopped. The ship fell into silence. This time it was welcoming. Death Zone staggering back, his eyes wide with shock. "What? No!" he roared, but his voice was muffled by the collar, and his power was completely shut down. Spectrum stood tall, her energy still radiating around her. "It's over, Diz," she said confidently. Ghost Spider, now standing beside her, smiled with quite sense of victory. "Now that's how you do it, guys," she said. The team stood around breathing heavily but relieved as they realized they had finally stopped Death Zone. They were a mess, but they managed to get it done. Agent Tiger's voice came through the comms once again. "Good work, team. May not have been perfect, but you got the job done. Regroup at the Aegis," he commanded. As the team made their way back to the ship, the Death Zone in tow, they couldn't help but exchange looks. Despite the shaky start they managed to pull together when it counted. There were certainly lessons to be learned, but they knew this was just the beginning. The Aegis lifted gracefully from the deck of the SHIELD airbase, the sleek advanced craft cutting through the sky with precision. Below them, the cruise ship faded into the distance, and Death Zone now safely locked up. He was no longer a threat. The team sat in the back of the Aegis, their expression a mix of relief and exhaustion. The air was heavy with the aftermath of the chaotic mission. The team had barely managed to bring Death Zone down, and their lack of coordination had made the whole thing harder than it needed to be. They were still getting used to working together, and it showed. As the Aegis climbed into upper airspace, Agent Tiger stood at the front, his eyes focused on the monitors in front of him. He flipped through a few switches, engaging the aircraft's hover mode. With a smooth, calculated motion, the hum of the engines faded away as the ship held steady in the sky. "Alright, everyone, gather up." Ty's voice came through the intercom, his tone firm and commanding. "Meeting in 5, he said. The team exchanged uneasy glances. They knew what was coming. A few minutes later, they gathered in the spacious, high-tech meeting room aboard the ship, and Agent Tiger stood at the head of the table, arms crossed and a stern expression on his face. The tension in the room was palpable. "You're lucky you got Death Zone, and he's locked up, that no one got seriously hurt. But that was sloppy. Very sloppy," Ty began, his gaze sweeping over the team. Doreen opened her mouth to speak, but Agent Tiger cut her off before she could get a word in. "Don't try to make excuses, Doreen. This wasn't a joke. Your lack of coordination nearly cost us the mission. We can't afford that kind of chaos on the field. You're a team now, and that means you need to work together. If you don't, you're all putting yourselves in danger, and I'm not going to let that happen," Ty said, his voice cool. Kamala shifted uncomfortably in her seat, glancing at Gwen, but Ty's gaze was unrelenting. "Kamala, Gwen, you two nearly took each other out with your own moves. What happened? You're supposed to be working in sync here," Ty asked. Gwen sighed, rubbing the back of her neck. "Yeah, that was my bad. We kind of got all tangled up there," Gwen replied. "And Joe, what's with just letting your hits swing everywhere?" Ty's voice was pointed. "I can't even count how many times you've nearly hit some with your own attacks," he said. Joe bit his lip, trying to avoid eye contact. "It won't happen again?" he muttered, his voice apologetic. "Maya, you phase through everything but the actual target. You need to focus. You can't keep phasing in and out just to avoid being hit," Ty said, his gaze now turning to Maya. "I was trying to get around him," Maya began, but Ty held his hand out, cutting her off. "I know what you're trying to do, but you need to pick your moments. We're not just dealing with random opponents anymore. You've got to stay sharp. You've got to be sharp," Ty said sharply. The room was quiet as the team took in Ty's words. They knew he was right, but hearing it all at once was quite the wake-up call. "Listen, I get it. This is your first real mission as a team. But if you're going to keep going out there together, you need to get your act together. You're a team now, not just a bunch of individual heroes," Ty said, his tone now softening. There was a brief pause as the weight of his words settled in. Doreen was the first to speak up, her usual carefree attitude coming through despite the reprimanding. "We get it, Ty. We'll do better. We're just working out the kinks, but we are a team, and we'll figure it out," Doreen said, giving a playful salute. Kamala nodded. "Doreen's right. We'll be better next time. No more tripping each other over," she said. "Yeah, less webbing each other's mouths shut, or accidentally punching each other," Gwen said, giving a small grin. "We'll make sure that next time we don't blow up the entire ship either," Joe said, chuckling, trying to ease the tension. Ty Tiger looked at the team, his expression hardening again, but he nodded. "I hope so. I'm not asking for perfection, of course, but I'm asking for respect for each other's abilities and each other. And for the mission, of course. You're all talented, but you're better together than apart," Ty told them. There was a moment of quiet, and then Hisako spoke up, her voice calm and serious. "We'll work harder. Together. she said. The rest of the team nodded in agreement. Despite the rocky start, they were starting to realise the strength they could have if they pulled together as a true team. Good, now get some rest. We've got more work to do, and we can't afford to fall apart again, Ty said, finally relaxed his stance and gave a small nod. As the team all filed out of the room, there was a renewed sense of determination in the air. They knew Ty had a point. They were strong individually, but to truly make an impact, they needed to trust each other and work as one. The mission was far from over. The inside of the Aegis was humming with activity. The high-tech shipping training room was large and equipped with a state-of-the-art holographic projectors and obstacle courses designed to challenge even the most seasoned heroes. Today it was filled with familiar faces of the Secret Warriors, all gearing up for a new kind of challenge, improving their teamwork. Agent Ty Tiger stood in the front of the room, arms crossed, his eyes scanning the team with sharp, assessing look. The room had been cleared of distractions and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. "Alright, team, we've been through a mission, and we know where the weak spots are. Today we're going to fix that. You're going to learn how to work together. No more tripping each other over, no more confusion. You need to move as one." Ty began, his voice rather firm. The team stood at their attention, the weight of his words sinking in. Doreen, aka Squirrel Girl, was already bouncing on the balls on her feet, her usual energetic, infectious energy, but there was a serious edge to her expression. Kamala, aka Miss Marvel, adjusted her suit, her expression determined. Joe, also known as Nexus, looked thoughtful, his arms folded across his chest, ready to focus. Maya, also went by the name Spectrum, had her arms crossed, already analysing the space, while Gwen, who also went by the name Ghost Spider, gave a small nod, her eyes scanning the room for potential obstacles. We're going to start with some basic coordination drills. You all know your strengths, but now you need to learn how to work with each other's abilities. I don't want to see any more of the chaos we had last time. We're going to run through several scenarios, and I expect everyone to stay in sync. If you can't manage that, we're not going on another mission, Ty continued. The team nodded, taking Ty's words very seriously. They didn't want to disappoint him or each other again. "Kamala, Joe, you're up first," Ty said, pointing towards the two. Kamala grinned, stretching her limbs. "Alright, let's do this," she said. Joe exhaled slowly. "I'm ready," he muttered. He pulled a small metal ball out of his bracelet and his skin hardened. Ty gestured to the holographic display, which sprang to life with a simulation of dangerous situation. The floor beneath the team shifted to resemble the obstacle-laden battlefield, with enemy combatants popping up at different points around them. "Here's the drill. Kamala and Joe, you two need to take on these enemies while staying in sync. Kamala, your flexibility is a key asset here, using your stretching to block or grab enemies. Joe, you're handling the muscle, hit them away, redirect their attacks. Kamala, you're going to have to stretch and maneuver quickly to keep Joe protected." The training simulation began and the two teammates were immediately thrust into action. Kamala stretched out, her arms reaching across the battlefield to grab two targets at once, her body contorting into fluid motion. Joe, using his powers, sent blasts towards the enemy, redirecting incoming attacks using his hands like shields. However, Kamala misjudged the timing of one stretch, causing her to block Joe's blast instead of hitting the target. "Not good," Kamala shouted, looking back at Joe. "Focus, Kamala," Ty barked from the sidelines. "You can't keep covering for each other like that. Joe, aim for the enemy, not your teammate," he barked again. Joe gritted his teeth and readjusted, sending a burst of incoming energy. Kamala in turn stretched out and pulled herself into position just in time to grab another enemy and slam it into the ground. "That's better. Good. Use coordination. Now move faster," Ty said, nodding. Kamala and Joe kept the rhythm going, getting more in sync with each other as they moved across the battlefield, tagging enemies and working together. There were still a few missteps, but they were making progress. "Doreen, Maya, step up next," Ty said as the simulation ended. The next drill was about precision teamwork. Doreen grinned, her usual exuberance shining through. "I'm ready. Let's show them how it's done, Maya," she said. Maya nodded silently, preparing herself for the task at hand. Ty brought up a new scenario. This time, the challenge involved stealth and quick action. Doreen's agility and Maya's phasing ability were the key to success. They had to get past a series of obstacles, lasers and guards, and time switches, and work together to avoid detection. Doreen, you're going to be our scout. You have to move quickly and quietly, use your agility to disarm the traps, and alert Maya to safe paths. Maya, your job is to face your obstacles and use your intelligibility to bypass security systems. Stay close to each other and no detours, Ty instructed. The Training began and Doreen darted ahead, swiftly navigating the obstacles in her path. Maya following behind, phasing through a wall, appearing on the other side to assist Doreen when she got stuck. The teamwork was impressive at first, but soon enough Doreen miscalculated her speed and crashed into one of the lasers. "Doreen!" Maya called out, frantically phasing through the wall to get her out of a trap. "Ah, dang it! I was too eager. Sorry, Maya," Doreen muttered, frustrated with herself. "Focus! You can't let your speed cloud your judgment, Doreen. Maya, you need to focus on her with one eye. Come on," Ty warned. The two restarted the drill, this time making fewer mistakes. Doreen was careful in her movement, and Maya adjusted her timing, phasing just before Doreen triggered a new trap. As they reached the final checkpoint, Ty gave a nod of approval. "Better, but don't get too comfortable. Now it's time for the final drill," he said. Ghost Spider and Hizuko stepped forward. "Alright, you two. This is going to take a true test to your offensive and defensive teamwork. Hizuko, you'll need to protect Gwen as she takes down multiple enemies. Gwen, you'll have to be quick and precise with your attacks," Tai said. The simulation began. Ghost Spider swinging through the air, evading incoming fire from the simulated enemies. Armor formed a protective shell around her, blocking hits while she provided cover for Ghost Spider to launch counterattacks. It was messy at first. Ghost Spider tried to swing in too close, and Armor couldn't form her armor fast enough to shield her from a surprise attack. But after some adjusting, Ghost Spider began webbing the enemies in place, and Armor stood her ground, blocking attacks and letting Ghost Spider take them down one by one. Tai watched the final moments with a critical eye. "Alright, that's more like it. You've still got work to do, but I see progress," Tai said. The team was breathing heavily, but there was a sense of accomplishment in the air. They had come a long way since their last mission. Ty gave them a small approving nod. "Good work, everyone, but remember, you can't slack off now. This is just the beginning. You've got potential, but you've got to keep pushing. We'll continue these drills until I'm convinced you're ready to face any threat." "Got it?" Tai said. The team nodded, exchanging looks of determination. They were far from perfect, but they were on the right path, and with Agent Tai Tiger guiding them, they were going to keep improving.
Thank you so much for listening to this tale. Now, if you like what you're hearing here on Marvel Universe 19, head over to Tiger Tales, ran by my Parabatai and business partner, Ty Tiger. He hosts a storytelling channel also, and on there you will find most of my stories too, from my old podcast Storytime. So if you like what you're hearing here, head over and check out his stories on Tiger Tales. Trust me, they are amazing.